This is the Mazda 6 in the recent facelift for you here on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars with Thomas. We're going to take a deep look on the exterior, both estate and the sedan, and the interior. Most changes have been happening there. This will be very interesting, I can promise you. And also the driving experience here as usual. And everything of that in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! We're on the beautiful island of Majorca here today. We really love to do car reviews here, especially in strong colors like Soul Crystal Red. A pretty unique color, and you know, I was a little bit skeptical of picking red cars, for example, when I think about buying a car on my own. But this color I would always pick anytime, no problem, and because it has very different shades of, you know, different nuances. Depending on where you look, you know, where the sun is coming from. Very interesting. In this facelift here, you have some changes. For example, the front grille has this dot structure, looks a little bit sportier and more dynamic. Then this 2D Mazda logo, because the sensors are hidden behind that. You can argue about that. And the headlamp unit is more separated now. On the one hand, it is one element, you know, with this chrome wing. On the other hand, it is clearly separated from the front grille, but overall it looks a little bit more in order. And then the front hood is split here in the front, so when you have a small crash, for example, you don't have to replace the whole front hood. And the headlamp unit starts with halogen, and optional and or together with the higher trims you get full LED headlamps. The sedan is 4,87 meters in length, or 16 foot. However, the estate is a little bit shorter, 4,80 meters, so -7 centimeters, but that's just the overhang. It's strange, usually the estate is a little longer. Well, here it is the other way around. Rims start from 17-inch. Those ones here are the optional 19-inch rims, or depending also sometimes on the market and also the trim levels. They also have different names in each market, then you also get the bigger rims. Here you can see also in this, it's not really silver, it's more this dark gray, but things fits very well together. Here, interesting design line where you can very well see how this color has different shades. They are really leading in those red colors at the moment, I think. Those door handles, they look pretty simple. Overall fit to this rather round design. Here, there's no harsh dropping line at the side. Here the estate with the roof rails. Both of the car, sedan and estate, everything we're telling you today will be basically the same for the vehicles. It's just the rear ending that is more practical with the estate. We will soon also show you on the inside differences in the rear part and also in the trunk area, sedan and estate. The sedan of course looks a little bit more elegant. That would be my design favorite. But let's see what's my favorite when we test the interior of the vehicle. What do you think so far about the design? In the rear, both have this chrome Mazda wing, or maybe we could call it a chrome mustache or something. What do you think? And the basic difference is of course that in the sedan you have a more elegant rear ending, of course, but overall from the very direct rear perspective they don't look so different. They haven't changed much here, a little bit of taillights, but nothing else. And what's really cool is we have the 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine here, and still has real exhaust, no fake exhaust tips whatsoever. I think this honest design is pretty cool, and we'll also talk about the engines pretty soon, because there have also been some changes right there. And the base price is about $23,000 without VAT, and in Germany, including VAT or Mehrwertsteuer, is $26,000, the base price for the Mazda 6. And then if you pick the biggest petrol engine and also some, you know, fancy stuff on the inside, you can of course easily get it above 30,000. When you think about 36,000, 38,000, then you really have a full spec car. So what about under the hood? Here the 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine. In Germany you have 194 horsepower, in the US 187. That's just, you know, the market specifications, and also, you know, the difference in the horsepower configuration, you know, you have different units and stuff, so it may vary a little bit. Here then now with cylinder on demand technology, which we've already tested in the Mazda CX-5, 2 cylinders shut off when you're just, for example, rolling and not applying the throttle, and also save some more fuel. You can also get this one with a turbo, in the US only, with 250 horsepower then. That would be the top engine. This one here in Europe is the top petrol engine. You can also get a smaller petrol engine. That one then is a 2-liter one with 145 or 165 horsepower. Actually, it will consume 1 liter less of fuel probably than the bigger one here. Soon more in the driving part, the fuel consumption. And then you get a 2.2-liter diesel with 150 or 184 horsepower. So the stronger diesel has also received a small power upgrade, and also this one here, just some horsepower more, has to do that they switch to this new consumption cycle and also gets some more torque, for example. Not really in a very noticeable area, but more important is that they now all fulfill the new regulations as for the exhaust emissions. This is the car key, but you can also use the keyless entry with this knob. It now will give a beep sound because I have the ignition turned on, that you can see everything. One thing I do criticize with the build quality, that the door closing sound, also when you have that here with the door handles, that sounds a little bit non-premium like, but there will now be a lot of details which are really cool. Soft touch on the top part of the door, then you have this wood inlet, so very well done. Then this chrome inlet and Alcantara on the inside of the doors, that feels good, also looks good. Microfiber, then again a soft touch here for the armrest. You are somewhat limited in height as for the inside of the door space, like this. Optional Bose sound system, quite decent sound, not too overwhelming. Interesting is that they have, for example, when you look here is also a new Alcantara dashboard detail, and also look at here how they realigned the horizontal air vents. Very cool features. Then again, soft touch on both of the dashboard parts. But then, for example, on the lower part, when you want to remove the floor mats, you can see here, you almost remove the whole floor with that. So they have really light and shadow in this interior. Pretty interesting. I'll show you some more here. So, but then again, you know, some cool things you find as well. But that's, you know, what's Autogefühl and the Mazda also making interesting. Steering wheel, also with some new details right there. A left side for sound, right side for the ACC control, for example, and then fully new reorganized seat. There's a new seat form available, as you can see. We'll soon talk more about that, if they're really more comfortable or not. There's a fabric surface as base in Germany or other European countries, and in the US you also get a leatherette if you want to be more eco-friendly. This one is the optional animal skin package, where Mazda is heading in the wrong premium direction. But memory seat function, that is pretty cool that you have that, and also electric lumbar support. Now let's get inside. It's a classic mid-size sedan position. Feels actually quite sporty. You have a good view to the front. Steering wheel can be adjusted in height and reach. Soon there will be also a special Mazda MX-5 episode, by the way. We'll go to Romania, drive that very famous route, and the new Mazda MX-5 will also receive then a reach change in the steering wheel column. Stay tuned on Autogefühl as a subscriber. Then you can, as I said earlier, have this electric support here. Those electric motors are actually quite loud. Really funny. But very well adjustable for that, that's for sure. 1 meter is 86 or 6'1". Still got some headroom. If there is then the panoramic roof, that might get a little bit close. This car is not thought out for the tallest drivers. The seat form, the new one here, the whole seat, you can see it's really very thick now. But from the impression, I mean, it's not bad, but I don't feel as it would be a big advantage in comparison to the predecessor seat. We see out how that plays out then in the driving part later on, more details after I've driven a little bit longer with this vehicle. This is the new interior alignment here with the horizontal stress, wood inlet, but again, it really looks good. I think it's totally fine. And also nice with the microfiber right here. So pretty cool. It's also soft to touch, great idea, and also more clean in design. New 8-inch screen you can get here. Soon more deals to that, also soon more deals to the instruments. Then in the lower area you have this new climate unit with formerly Audi-like metal knurled knobs and clicking sounds. Pretty cool and easy also. Heated steering wheel optional and also ventilated seats next to the heated seats. Even the seat ventilation is really powerful, I can tell you. But of course, save the money and just go for the fabric seats, then you don't need the seat ventilation. Still a CD changer, some music lovers still want that. Lower part, some spot to put your smartphone. And then there's this automatic gearbox, which is doing a phenomenal job, really smooth gear transitions with the sport knob. I will tell you, towards the end of the driving wheel, together with a big 0 to 100 or 62 miles an hour acceleration, what that sport knob does. And in the lower part, well, you can both control the infotainment system either via touch, that's possible, when standing still. When you're driving, it's not possible via touch, then just with this lower control unit turning and pressing knob. As for the instruments, Mazda goes a very classic way, just a small digital unit in the very middle part. And really fancy is this new head-up display directly projected into the windscreen. For some more safety while driving, just keep your eyes on the road. And you will also see some GPS commands when you have the GPS navigation running. So as I said, when the car is standing still, you can use it with a touch. This is the map view here, and also been improved that you can, well, zooming in and out is just here, but at least you can, very well control it. Also goes quite fast then. However, you can still use this lower knob then to browse in the menu. And the biggest news is for sure, you can still connect your phone via Bluetooth, but then you can also have the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto now. And the cool thing is, although got it connected here, you can play your music and at the same time go back and use the real Mazda GPS. Recently I thought it was not possible. Good that it's possible here. On the left lower side of the steering wheel, you can deactivate some of the assistance systems, by the way, and also directly activate the rear view camera. That's pretty cool that you not always have to rely on putting in the reverse gear. You can always press this one. Because maybe you also want to park in the front and then it doesn't get activated when you not put in the reverse gear, and then you also have this optional fake drone view from above. On the right side you can see that there, but the resolution of those camera screens is really bad. Pretty cool feature is this new frameless mirror as well. It is also very large, so you have a good overview to the rear and again very elegant. The middle console is pretty cool. This cover and then great cup holders because they're large enough, but they can also hold smaller bottles with those adaptive plastic holes, and they're also better than those rubber pads we've recently seen in the Jaguar I-Pace, for example. So very well done here. Then this armrest here feels good. Well, could maybe move a little bit less, but still overall fine. And then you have this volt supply and also 2 USB slots. Could put your smartphone here. This one is to connect with the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And if you just want to charge but not connect to the smartphone mirroring function, then you use the lower USB port. So let's get in the rear and whoa, again, as the seat is so voluminous now, we've already experienced that on Geneva Motor Show, you have less rear legroom than before. And usually a facelift should offer you maybe more legroom. Well, that's quite often with whole model changes, but the same problem Citroën often does have now. They say, oh, we make so comfortable seats, but then they are like this deep or thick, and then you don't have any rear legroom left. And that's a big problem here, probably the biggest problem of this facelift. A lot of cool new things, but that's really a problem. Headroom, this is still okay. especially here in the estate, so you can still put the hand over my head. And also when I lean back, I do not hit the ceiling. Let's soon check out how this one plays out in the sedan then, in comparison. Other than that, I mean, if I would have leg room, so it won't be a problem if you were short, or maybe like 4 adults with like, you know, 5'9" and 1.75 m, there will be no problem. But if you're taller, it gets close. Isofix at the outside part, you can already flip the seats then from here, like this. But here in the estate, you will also have the possibility to do it actually from the rear. Then there's also a middle armrest. And here especially also with seat heating now, optional of course, cup holders and some more space here, and 2 USB ports. I really like this middle armrest here, very cool done. And so a lot of elements again which are really premium alike. Well, let's open the hatch here of the estate. There's a manual hatch here today, which has also some advantages if you compare to the electric one, because when you want to close it again, for example, and you're not sure will it shut, then you can gently do it like this and then like this, you know, test first and then really shut it. With an electric tailgate, that might not be that smooth. This top cover here, you can actually also remove it, but it's a good solution. It's easy, it's just manual. But as they have this solution here, it automatically opens and closes. Clean and nice. This cover, you can put it up. There's a tire repair kit underneath. And also those left sides, you can very well use them, so not much space has been wasted. Also those anchor points for tension belts, for example, are available. Then you have the hangers here on both sides for bags. And you can also flip the seats from here. That's probably, you know, the best thing you can do, like this. And on the other side, there's another, you know, another 220 volt supply. Let's move the front seat a little bit more in the front. Then we can also have this complete flip right there. And here we can see, this is pretty cool. A lot of room in here, and of course the big advantage of the estate. Also this area here is better covered than in the sedan. And to compare the headroom in the sedan, really nice this opening here for sure. So there's no panoramic roof in here. And I can sit upright, that's possible when I lean backwards. Then I do hit the head with the ceiling with my head. Again, 1.86 m or 6'1". So in the front, when I'm going like this, some more room left, but then as soon as I lean back, this is where the estate has an advantage. And of course, if you're taller than me, then the estate will give you even more advantage. However, considering it's a mid-size sedan, it's still okay as for the headroom there. And now to compare the trunk of the sedan, of course very relevant, especially for our friends in the US. I also put the cabin trolley right in here that you can see the size and also the height especially. So this is still fitting. However, you know, when you have some bulkier stuff, and I recently had that, you know, I needed to, you know, move a small cupboard with the sedan, and that didn't fit in here. So I ended up putting the stuff on the back seat of the sedan. So there the estate clearly has an advantage. So yes, the sedan is more elegant from the exterior, but of course less handy. And then you can also have to release the seats right there. You have to go around. So also the other difference with the estate, you can release it from distance. Here you can see and you can load things through. This is here, by the way, you have to push it down when it comes up. This is, you know, some issue in the build quality for sure. But as I said here earlier, you can then also load things through. And also this back part here, it should be a little bit more fixed, you know. This is a little bit loose here overall. But that's the possibility you have. Again, you've seen the difference to the estate. Which one would you go for? Welcome to the driving part, Thomas's driving lounge. The Mazda6 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, my favorite Mazda engine. And let's see, what have they changed here with the facelift as for the driving? You know that all new Mazdas now come with this GVC, the G vectoring control, where they have some torque adjustment when cornering, so in and out the corners, and you don't feel a big difference, but overall you will have less shaking in the car because it gives you a little bit more torque when cornering out, a little bit less than when you're in the corner, so you have less G-force applied to the body. Pretty interesting system, and they just make it as a standard system for all of the models, and I mean, why not? In general, they have a quite natural steering feel. It's not too hard to steer, but you can see there are other brands which have more progressive philosophy. Overall, it gives you a very pleasant feeling when steering. This is also something they really pay attention to. They always want to make this so-called Jin by Itai, the unity of horse and rider, in this case, and car and driver. Of course, they are not the sportiest cars, but as for, let's say, normal, non-sports cars, I think they managed that quite well. So now we're getting uphill with this 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. Of course, it is no turbo. You hear it also 3,500 RPM, even if I'm not really super on the gas. So you need some more RPMs with this naturally aspirated engine, yes. On the other hand, you have a very harmonic acceleration, and sometimes it's also better as for the consumption. We'll soon also talk about consumption. First, I want to show you a little bit more about the power, and you can also use this shifting pedals here to shift down. It works pretty good, and the other possibility would be the center gear stick, where you can then push forward to shift down and push or pull towards you to put the gear up. But you know, the shifting pegs here on the steering wheel are of course somewhat more comfortable. So for example here, then before we start an acceleration or something, we can shift down to get some more speed. And for example, let's accelerate third gear from 65. 100. So you see, it's not a very explosive acceleration, but it comes very harmonic in an acceleration way. Of course, not harmonic as for the sound, because you've seen it maybe also, and also heard it, need a lot of RPMs than with the NA engines. And then, of course, when you really push them, they will also consume more. When you rather keep them a little bit slower and steady, you can actually sometimes consume less than with those ones. And of course, there's in Germany as a saying, Hubraum ist durch nichts zu ersetzen, aka as in there's nothing to replace displacement. And there are a lot of sayings that are better in English, but this saying is actually pretty cooler, you know, in German. I'm not sure if there's you know, a proper saying in English for that, for a direct translation. That would be very interesting. So still, if you also compare it to the other engines you have a decent acceleration. Better it will be just if you have the one you can get in the US. It's this engine here, the 2.5 liter with a turbo. That then also with 50 horsepower more, so 250 horsepower. That's done really quick. But we do not get that in Europe. Mainly, you know, I think it's two reasons. First of all, there's not the you can leave me in here, so no problem. I'm on camera. What the hell? Yeah, that's Autogefühl live on tape. Maybe he will soon realize that he just was disturbing an Autogefühl review, and he will regret it the rest of his life. Back to our review. Yeah, because stuck in traffic is of course also part of it. We'll get on the motorway again because we have to change directions, and we'll show you another acceleration. So there has been a little power upgrade for the facelift here with the Mazda 6, but not a one you would really feel considerably. So that's, you know, that's rather the same than before. What has changed since the last time we've driven this car here is that the 2.5 NA has the cylinder on demand technology, COD, or Zylinderabschaltung in German. So that would be that two of the cylinders are being shut off from the 4-cylinder engine to save fuel when you're just at the rolling speed, basically, so you don't need much power. Then 2 of those are shut off, and this can help to reduce consumption again. But depending on the situation, if you have a situation where you have some rolling, for example, involved, then it will definitely help. So I like that they also have managed to make the car a little bit more silent. We've already felt it when we're going on the motorway a little bit faster, but now also when we're stuck in traffic, a lot of engines, noise around us, the car has become more silent now. Already from the pre-facelift, they always make facelift throughout the model changes. Mazda has this strategy that they don't make like one big facelift in the middle of the life cycle, but they make maybe a small facelift each year. That has always been the Mazda strategy. You can argue pro and con about that, but I think, generally it's good, because why don't you roll out some changes when you have the possibility to, that the customer is actually profiting from that at a very earlier stage, So I think that's quite good. Wow, motorcycles from left and right. Always have to pay attention to that. So, the insulation of the cabin was something where the competitors were pretty much ahead of Mazda, and I have to say, this makes a really good impression now. So they've worked on that over and over again, and so far I have a pretty silent impression. Co-driver Katrina, what's your verdict? Sound insulation? Thumbs up for the sound insulation. So, because sometimes you have a different feeling as a driver than as a co-driver, but in this case we definitely agree, for once. So, we soon get out of this traffic jam, I hope, but it's definitely good to have those everyday driving situations here in our driving part. Again, as for the steering, it feels really natural. I think they have they found a good steering ratio there as well. And as for the overview, we have this big center mirror, and also the normal side mirrors. They have, when you don't have a blind spot monitor, you still have this, this split in the mirror, because they also don't have the biggest blind spot. Just wonder, there it is. So we also have the equipped blind spot monitor there, the yellow warning. I think one of the most important safety features you can go for optional. That's really pretty cool. So I'll also zero the consumption here, because we had this one faster acceleration in there, which would not be very representative. So we'll roll a little bit slower, keep it a little bit more steady, and then till later also how that affected the consumption, what we can score as a minimum figure. And usually, my experience here would be something between 6 and 8 liters on 100 kilometers. That's in the MPG ranges, something 30 something MPG, so 36, 30, 39, 35, depending really on the road profile. But usually they score quite good, and also more realistic as for the official figure that is being given. So again, good overview, considering it's not the shortest car in the mid-size segment, but I like those mid-size segment cars. The same goes for compact SUVs, because you can do so much with the vehicles, but they're not that bulky yet. So you can still find some parking spots. You don't pay too much money a segment above. You don't have too much more space on the interior. That's pretty loud for a scooter, right? So not so much more room on the interior, but so much more exterior. And here in the mid-size segment, the relation is still somewhat good between the space we have in the interior and the exterior. So together, by the way, also with the new head-up display I've shown you earlier, which is pretty clear also in the visualization. Like that, I'm at the moment seeing an arrow from the GPS where I have to go, then the current speed, also the maximum allowed speed, for example. And I think that's also stepping up the game right there. Then I can play the Carplay music while I'm watching the GPS. I've turned on the GPS commands from the voice that this doesn't disturb you. The new noise insulation, some engine upgrade. So overall, this whole image of the vehicle has been improved, and it feels definitely more premium. Also, when I'm now, getting the climate controls, whereas Audi has been losing them all and going for this, screen setup. Mazda now says, okay, when Audi doesn't do clicking climate buttons anymore with a metal knurling around, then we do it. And I find it quite likable, because I like to have still this climate knob, because I can just watch the front and say, hey, well, a little warmer, a little colder, and I don't have to use a voice command or something else, and I just use the button. It's the easiest way possible, especially while driving. Crazy traffic here today. So I think that's also, again, another upgrade, and definitely I can share the stuff we said earlier, especially in the interior part, that this car feels worthier somehow now, more premium. It's always the question, of course, which is the definition of premium, and of course, when you have the base model of this one, you have to pay a little extra that you can see all of the stuff we can see at the moment here. But I think they're heading definitely in a good direction to make it better overall with small changes. Here now again, the road surface on Mallorca, where we're driving today, is sometimes a little bit rough. So sometimes the cars here appear louder than they are somewhere else. But again, I'm now just over 100 kilometers an hour, so 65 miles an hour. And this is still very silent. So pretty cool, and probably, to me, one of the best things they've achieved here when I rate driving the vehicle. So, really satisfied with that. Probably my favorite feature here today. Also, at higher speeds, the car remains pretty stable. If I do some slalom here now, that still feels pretty sporty. The car doesn't tilt too much to the sides, and I remember driving Mazda6 from 5 years ago, and it's really good when the whole evolutionary stages they've been taken on. So, for example, we can do another lane change to the right, let the car behind us pass. Then you can also see another time here again, lane change, pretty stable, feels sporty, fun to drive. Now there's X6 will probably take us, going back to the lane again, some acceleration, back once again. Yeah, it's really cool. So you can still have a lot of fun in the mid-sized vehicle, and the difference between sedan and estate is not really present. So if I would close my eyes now, which I shouldn't do because I'm driving, I couldn't really tell if I'm driving the estate or the sedan. Maybe the interior acoustics are a little bit different if you really drive them next to each other. But it's just the overhang in the rear that is a little bit different between those. And so they drive the same. That's also the reason why I said initially, everything I say in this review today will count both for the sedan and the estate. The seats, by the way, here, they have this new seating form. Of course, since we have the animal skin surface, I already start sweating or sticking to the seats somewhat, which is not really pleasant. I mentioned that quite sometimes, even if you don't care about animals, the fabric surfaces have the advantage that they are better in this climate comfort. They are keeping cooler in summer, and also they are warmer in winter times. But the seat form itself has been improved, so you have some more space on the seat in the front, with the exception, as I showed you that in the interior part, that you now have basically less space in the rear because the seat is thicker. So yeah, that's again pro and con. So you see, when you improve something on the one hand, you can also basically lose something on the other hand. As for the steady consumption here at the moment, so I've just been rolling in the motorway. I can also set the cruise control here on the right side of the steering wheel. So this guy here is again, a show-off press car, basically equipped with almost everything you can get. ACC is also built in here, so it's keeping the distance to the car in front of us. And well, we're just in the region of something above 8 liters on 100 kilometers at the moment. That would be a little bit too much for my taste for a mid-size vehicle. I mean, it's somewhat a big engine, but there's no turbo, and we haven't been stressing the engine too much now. However, today it's 35 degrees Celsius outside at the moment, so that's in the 90s in Fahrenheit. So that's getting, you know, pretty heavy on the AC. And recently we've also seen it in the Audi A6, where turning on the AC in a very hot climate can sometimes be, you know, not only half a liter on 100 kilometers, but sometimes even 1 or 1.5 liter of difference then. So that can be pretty heavy on the car overall. Here with the Mazda, when you go for the higher trim levels, you will also have this, they have a small or mild hybrid system, which can also help you to reduce some fuel. We also have built in here that there's some recuperation energy being gained back for the car battery, for the AC, for example, and for some other electric stuff that is running in the vehicle. However, it doesn't seem to have a big effect on that. It's again that the biggest effect on the consumption is still on how you drive the car, really, if you hammer the throttle or you don't. So, and we'll also keep you updated towards the conclusion, how the consumption figure will change or will not. But so far, it's basically confirmed again what I had earlier in some other tests with about 8 liters on 100 kilometers. You know, should be lower in my opinion, considering all of the efforts they're also taking to bring that consumption down. Then again, it's the biggest engine also for this vehicle, and overall, very harmonic ride. Here now, by the way, just about 2,500 RPM at about 120 kilometers an hour. There you can see no turbo. The RPMs are a little bit higher than, of course, with the diesel it would be lower. But here the engine also, especially if you're not revving it that much, is pretty silent. And I can stress again, this has been probably the most silent ride for a Mazda so far. You know, they have also been improving the sound insulation for the Mazda CX-5, but due to the building form, the Mazda 6 is more silent than the CX-5 as an SUV, just more resistance against the wind. And the ACC is doing a really good job at the moment. You know, see, reducing the speed just a little bit. I can also increase the distance 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, or make it at the minimum distance. That is, you know, depending on the vehicle, most of the time still enough. If you have the second level there, then you're always, you know, in a very safe spot. So we'll soon get off the motorway. That will give you some other driving impressions, but motorway is really what I want to test here today, because, you know, of the new engine features, and also mainly due to the sound installation. And I think that, well, I need to hack this Alcantara fabric surface while we're driving. Fine, good boy, good boy. Really like that one. You know, remember that from the interior part, which was, clearly among my favorite ones. So what about some, some acceleration when we're a little bit faster? We can also show you that. If the example here now from 100 to 120. There it is. That is, of course, then a difference if you don't have a turbo. Those accelerations in higher speeds, you feel a little bit lost there. That's that's the downside. But then again, at slower speeds, I really like to drive those non-turbo engines again, because they give you a more predictive form of acceleration. Sometimes with those turbo engines, you wait a little for maybe a turbo lag or something, or for the car to shift down, and then you get this massive boost. So again, you can't say that the one is bad and the one is good or something. It's personal preference, and also has pros and cons. Of course, if you don't have a turbo, it can never break down as a turbo. Of course, an engine can break down to some other causes. But what we also got from you a lot of Mazda customers also among our viewers, as a feedback is that their engines are usually quite reliable, hold quite long. Of course, I'm always seeking for more information and feedback in this respect. So if you are a customer of this vehicle, then please give us your feedback, especially also how long have you driven the car. As for the durability, it's really great also for others who are potentially thinking of buying this car now to think, is it really worth the effort, and is it really durable? That's the direct customer feedback is to me actually the most priceless one. So now a little bit slower again. You can drive about 90 here. And again, some steering test. It's really fun to steer the vehicle around. So already in the base setup, without having a special sporty version, this of course here being today a higher trim, it has a sporty characteristic and is really fun to drive. And I think that's also a very important point, because this car will also be bought by, let's say, a lot of normal people who don't have like 100,000 euros or dollars to buy a vehicle, or maybe don't want to spend so much money to buy a vehicle, but want a good vehicle which has maybe some touch already with the facelift here of a premium appeal, but it's just doing a good job. And then when you still have some fun without spending too much money, I think that's definitely a very important point. So now some more city corners. Brakes, also good reaction, so don't need much more braking power for that. Sometimes I feel I could use a little bit less steering, a little bit more progressive, but overall that's still okay. Here again, this car also makes you, on the one hand, with this steering and the suspension, feel a little bit sportier. Then with the engine acceleration, if you hammer it, okay, you can also have fun. But the engine characteristic of this non-turbo engine rather makes you feel driving a little calmer. So the car basically has both then to offer. Pretty interesting. So definitely a good drive. What do you think here of our Mazda 6 test with the facelift? So, 3 more things I want to show you. First of all, acceleration from 0. Let's just hammer it. There we are, to 100 kilometers, or 62 miles an hour. Pretty good. And also decent sound, wasn't it? Front-wheel drive, of course, so you also heard that I was preloading it a little bit with left foot brake and right foot on the pedal. Some wheel spin then there in the front, and I also had the sport mode activated. You can activate it in the middle console. What does it do? It basically changes when there's the shifting process. So when I get off the sport mode, car immediately shifts in gear up. It's keeping low on the RPM, and when I go in the sport mode, RPM goes up because I'm gear lower, so it's shifting up later and shifting down earlier, and also giving you a little bit more or faster throttle input. So when you want to keep it calm and better for the consumption, you let the sport mode out, and when you want to save some more fuel, always depends on how you want to go. As for the consumption, we had a short break. I was driving a little bit longer, and I could bring down this consumption to 7 liters on 100 kilometers. That's then okay. That is then 34 mpg. And if you do those acceleration stuff, then of course it goes rather in the 8 liter 100 kilometers, which would be rather 29 mpg. So it will, at the end of the day, something in between those two figures, depending on how you drive. And now our conclusion here for today with the recent Mazda 6 update. Well, I really have to say the premium manufacturers have to pay attention that they can still justify their prices, because the official non-premium manufacturers are also stepping up the game and catching up in different fields where usually it was, just for the premium brands, and be in it such details like the interior with those metal nerd knobs for the climate unit. Pretty interesting. So I think overall all the changes they've given the car, exterior a little bit more sporty, a little bit more refined, same time more elegant. Of course this sedan is more elegant from the exterior approach, but then again, if you try to put something in the sedan, if you are in a market where you have the choice between sedan and estate, I can just always tell you, get the practicability advantage over the beauty advantage. That's just from experience. For our friends in the US, of course, they are basically stuck with a sedan, but it's definitely a very beautiful car. Then on the interior, a lot of interesting changes. I really like the Alcantara pad at the front dashboard. That was my favorite feature actually. And head-up display, also very well done. Then finally the Apple CarPlay integration for the GPS looks very good as well. And the sound insulation while driving. Well, the one thing I was not really keen on was the new seat form. It looks more comfortable, but I'm not really sure if it's really more comfortable in the long-term run. Not unlike the new Mazda 3 concept we've been testing, which they have also changed seats, which were really great in comfort. And also, of course, Mazda has this very conservative way of thinking that when they go premium, they just put leather in, just put more leather in as well. And that's not really innovative. And I think they have to be working on that to also offer new, different materials. Well, as I said earlier, especially in the US, you can also get a leatherette and the base version also with the fabric seats. So you'll also be fine with that, especially when it's so hot like today. This is definitely an advantage. But also interesting how this seat ventilation was pushing a lot. Maybe you have to check out that you don't get a cold from that maybe in your in your back area. So very interesting interior features we've seen here. They have been definitely catching up, also together with the new sound insulation and this quite beloved 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. Something very competitive on the market for sure. What do you think? Leave me your comments there in our comment section, discuss with us, and also join us next time.